Hello, everybody. It's a bit windy, so please bear with me. But I'm happy to see all of you. Happy to be in Washington, and this trip today is part of a U.S. engagement that will be also following in Halifax, where we will be heading, and I will be heading to the Halifax Security Forum. And so in that context, we wanted to make sure that we would be here in Washington as part of our plan. Why? Because we've told you many times that we had a good plan. The first step was to make sure that we would be able to engage with the new administration. We would also have a U.S.-Canada committee. We would nurture the existing relationships we have and also build new ones and have good conversations. So in that context, I met with many senators. We'll do also a meeting with many more senators also in Halifax. And we've talked about many issues. First one is, of course, trade. Second is the border. We've talked a lot also about Arctic foreign policy, because we're coming up with a new Arctic foreign policy, about the Columbia River Treaty, which is about water management in British Columbia and on the West Coast. And of course, because I'm the foreign minister, we've talked a lot about geopolitics as well, which is clearly something that many senators are interested in. So we know that the relationship with the U.S. is strong, and my job and the job of the Prime Minister and the Cabinet is, of course, to make it stronger. So let me just say that in French now. Donc, ça me fait plaisir d'être ici à Washington. Ça fait partie d'un engagement que je fais avec plusieurs sénateurs et sénatrices américaines qui se passe ici à Washington, mais aussi qui va se poursuivre à Halifax au Halifax Security Forum, qui est un forum sur la sécurité important où il y aura également plusieurs autres membres de l'administration américaine. J'ai eu plusieurs conversations sur différents sujets avec des sénateurs et sénatrices, que ce soit le commerce entre nos deux pays, que ce soit aussi la frontière, également sur notre prochaine politique d'affaires étrangères sur l'Arctique, le traité de la rivière Columbia également, et finalement toutes les questions liées à la géopolitique. Je vous l'ai dit à plusieurs reprises, nous sommes plusieurs à vous l'avoir mentionné, nous avons un plan. Le plan était certainement de soutenir les relations que nous avons déjà et en développer d'autres, de nouvelles. Et également, nous avons créé le comité Canada-États-Unis qui nous aide aussi à organiser le cabinet et le gouvernement autour de nos priorités en lien avec l'arrivée de la nouvelle administration américaine. Alors, je suis prête à prendre vos questions. It will be a pleasure to take all your questions.
Minister, did you get a sense of whether Donald Trump's planned, 10 to 20% tariffs across the board, whether that's going to apply to Canada or whether we're actually going to get the exemption that we're apparently pushing for?
So, we know we have a good trading relationship with the U.S. President-elect Trump announced yesterday his new ambassador, his appointment to become ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra. When he announced that, he also mentioned the strength of the USMCA, which he was able to agree on, along with, of course, Prime Minister Trudeau. And so our goal is to make sure that we continue to abide by this important trade deal we have with the U.S. And meanwhile, many senators I've met are clear that when it comes to Canada, the relationship on trade is very, very important. And also they notice what we're doing to make sure that we protect also our market based on national security grounds on any form of backdoor that China could have. And so based on that, I think that we're having positive conversations, but we'll continue to engage.
The U.S. says that they don't like the ICC's decision that Benjamin Netanyahu should be arrested. Do you agree with the U.S. or do you agree with the ICC that this is a good decision to put out a warrant?
So I'll let the U.S. take its own decisions. When it comes to us, the Prime Minister was asked that question earlier today. So I think that we should all remind ourselves that the situation in Gaza is absolutely catastrophic. Too many women and children have been killed, and at the same time, hostages need to be released, and Weinstein's remains need to be returned to her family and to her daughter, Iris. which I'm in close contact with. And that's why we need a ceasefire. And that's been Canada's position for a long, long time. Now, Canada is a founding member of the ICC. Canada has always believed not only that international law is important, but international law needs to apply to all parties at all times. And at the same time, in order to do so, we need accountability in our world. And so based on that, Canada will abide by its obligation under the ICC treaty.
Et vous pouvez répéter votre réponse sur les tarifs en français, s'il vous plaît?
Oui.
Merci.
Très bon français.
Merci.
OK. Donc, en français, sur les tarifs, premièrement, nous avons une entente qui est la nouvelle ALENA, le COSMA, qui est une entente qui a été signée par le président élu Trump et par le premier ministre Trudeau. Une entente qui est très positive. D'ailleurs, lorsque le président élu Trump a annoncé hier sa nomination, son choix pour le prochain ambassadeur au Canada, qui est M. Pete Hoekstra, il a mentionné l'importance de l'ALENA et l'importance aussi de cette entente qu'il a pu signer, en fait, avec le Canada lors de son dernier mandat entre 2016 et 2020. Donc, on voit qu'il y a quand même des réactions très positives ici lorsque j'ai différentes conversations avec les membres du Congrès. Mais en même temps, ces conversations-là doivent se poursuivre et on ne prend absolument rien pour acquis. On va toujours être là pour protéger les intérêts des Canadiens.
Hello, Minister. Alex Pineda,
Hi.
CBC News.
How are you, Alex?
I'm great, thank you. A little cold, but it's other than that, we're doing well.
Yeah, we're Canadian, so we get it.
Just one question about the border. You mentioned having discussed it with people here in Washington. The Trump administration is planning, or the future administration is planning, what it calls a shock and awe campaign at the border on day one of its administration. How confident are you, after having spoken with people here, that those measures it takes might not affect travel at the northern border as well?
Listen, when it comes to the border, first and foremost, it is in the interest of both countries to make sure that it is secure. It is our fundamental duty to make sure that that's the case. And so we are continuing a conversation. The Minister of Public Safety, Dominic LeBlanc, is really active on this. The Minister of Immigration, Mark Miller, as well. And we are managing through the U.S.-Canada Committee also a lot of these discussions. But we have to make sure that we engage with the U.S., and that's exactly why I'm here. That's exactly also why I'm heading to Halifax to meet with 5 more senators, which are important decision makers. Some of them come from northern states. Some of them really understand the importance of having a border that is secure on both sides, and others that may have a different geography coming from a different part of the country also absolutely get how much Canada must be, and Canada and the U.S. Must be in close coordination on this issue.
Okay, a question on the ICC, just following up on what Adrian asked earlier. I just want to make sure I've understood correctly. If Mr. Netanyahu or Mr. Dave set foot on Canadian soil, they would be arrested.
So what I've said is we will abide by our treaty obligations because we believe in international accountability. We believe in the ICC. Now, I won't give an hypothetical answer based on a hypothetical question, but my point is Canada's founding member has signed the treaty and therefore needs to follow its obligations.
Et en français, est-ce que M. Netanyahu serait arrêté s'il visite le Canada?
Je n'ai pas de commentaire à donner directement sur les décisions que M. Netanyahu va prendre, mais ce que les Canadiens doivent savoir, c'est que, en effet, le Canada est signataire du traité qui a fondé le tribunal pénal international, va respecter ses obligations parce qu'on prend ses obligations très au sérieux.
Hello, Minister.
Hi.
My name's Aria. I'm from Politico.
Hi.
A two-part question here.
Yeah.
How will Canada handle Mexico's ties with China when it comes to USMCA renegotiations in 2026?
Mm-hmm.
And would Canada be open to negotiating separate bilateral free trade agreements with the U.S. and separately Mexico?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think Mexico will take its own decisions, but what we all can agree on is that no country can become a backdoor to China. That's our position.
And one Another question now on to Trump administration. How would Canada respond to if Trump moves forward with his plan to impose a universal up to 20% tariff on all countries, including Canada?
I've answered that question already regarding tariffs. I think your colleague asked me, it was a 10% tariff that he mentioned. You're mentioning now 20%. What I'm saying to you is that our trade relationship is important. I think all the different senators I've talked to know that. President-elect Trump referred to the importance of the trade relationship when presenting what would be his appointment for the future ambassador of Canada. And so we'll continue to work on it. We have to do our job, which is to meet important people, to develop the new relationship with the new administration, and being the diplomat-in-chief of the government, that's something that I take extremely seriously. Anything else, guys?
Yeah, sure. Who have you managed to speak with in the Trump transition team so far?
So I won't give all the different names of the people that I'm in contact with, but what I can tell you is right now we've had many conversations with different senators. Here I met with Rick Scott. I met also with Lindsey Graham. I will be meeting also with Lisa Murkowski a bit later today. I will be meeting with Jim Rich, which is also a senator in Halifax and the head of the Foreign Affairs Committee of the Senate. So I'm just giving you enough names right now.
Any response to Russia apparently firing a ballistic missile into Ukraine, and seems like an escalation in their tactics?
So I know there's been a lot of rhetoric on the part of President Putin. We know that President Putin has no red lines, and the best way to get to peace is for him to leave Ukraine. Thank you.